Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be, wherever you might be. I am Diatonic, and this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. And I'm here with a bit of a different video than I normally plan to make, but because I'm fully transforming into my Yu-Gi-Tuber phase now, I felt like it was important to cover the new ban list that was just announced in the last few hours. And I know that almost everybody puts their own thoughts and opinions out there, but I felt like I wanted to get my own thoughts out there, maybe using analysis to make myself a better player, but in general, just to kind of open a dialogue with you guys. I'm curious what you think about all this, because I have my own opinions about this thing, but everybody views it differently, so let's talk about it. Okay, first of all, I would say in general, this is a very weird ban list. It's not exactly what I was expecting to see out of Konami this time around. And I feel like that tends to be the case a lot of times. The ban list ends up being something that we weren't really expecting to see, or not what we thought they would hit. Overall, this ban list is much more focused on skills rather than cards, so don't be surprised when you only see a few cards actually come up on this ban list. I don't think this ban list is necessarily earth-shattering. It's nothing like when Desperado rose for the first time in the meta, but it will definitely bring some immediate changes, and it's gonna hurt some of you out there that are playing rogue and casual decks, so stay tuned for that. We're gonna get there. So let's go ahead and talk about this thing first, right? So yeah, we're gonna go through almost every card. I've got a few notes for everything, some more than others, and take a look at this. So as you can see, there's a weird hit on the first one, but we'll talk about it. So this ban list is going into effect on March 9th, 2021, at least in my time zone, so yours may look a little different in-game, but March 9th is when the new changes will happen. So what exactly is happening on that day? Well, no cards are going forbidden, no bans whatsoever, so it's all limits. Alright, first of all, I know some people are going to ask what the heck are we looking at here, but this is Bamboo Scrap being limited down to 1. So it's a trap card. You tribute a plant monster, special summon 2 plant tokens to your opponent's side of the field in defense position. I think maybe when you read it, you can kind of see why it may be getting banned. If you can't, in the new box that's coming out very soon, Antinomic Theory, I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's a new plant archetype called Rika being introduced to the game, and a lot of their cards have effects that go off when you sacrifice monsters. So this card will have a ton of synergy with that archetype, and shut down your opponent's field by putting a bunch of dumb plant tokens on their side of the board that they can't do much about. So I've even heard from some people, like I heard that Decade played this in Aromage, and it worked really well. So yeah, putting this down to 1, pre-nerfing Rikas, I guess. So we'll see what that does for them, but yeah, this was kind of the omen for me. I was like, oh, really? This is the first ban we're getting? That's kind of weird. So that's what kind of made me think this will be a word list. So, okay, I know you can see what's coming next. It's peaking, and it may be a bit surprising to you. So, yes, that is correct. Limited down to 2 are both Misjudge and Head Judging, 2 somewhat key but not necessarily vital cards to the Desperado decks out there. Misjudge being the lovely card that whenever you activate an effect, this card makes you toss a coin twice, and if it gets 2 heads, then it negates it only once per turn. And Head Judging, where if you activate a monster effects, you have to toss a coin, and if you call it wrong, then you stop the effect from going off and you lose control of your monster. This is not the ban that I had predicted. In my head, I was thinking that Head Judging would actually get banned entirely. I didn't expect it to be limited alongside Misjudge. It's not as hard of a hit as banning Head Judging, but combined with another hit that we're going to talk about in a little bit, this is pretty rough for Desperado. The deck's not dead, not by a long shot, but this is definitely going to hurt it for sure. So Misjudge does seem kind of important to the deck, but I feel like maybe the better play is to forego Misjudge entirely and just go for 2 Head Judging. But on the other hand, because of Master of Destiny, and you need a bunch of coin flip cards in the deck, you kind of need Misjudge, so it's almost as if they're limiting both of these cards down to 1, because you kind of need both of them to activate Master of Destiny, but I don't know. I would have rather seen Head Judge go. I think Head Judging is a very, very unfun, toxic card. It turns the entire duel into a coin flip and basically defeats the entire purpose of sitting down to play Duel Links. You can play out a whole duel, and it can all be reversed by 1 coin flip. Not fun. So I'm glad that they are aware that there's a problem there and that they're trying to address it. I'm just wondering what this will do. But when we take a look at another hit later, you're gonna start to see where the problems lie. Okay, next, and the last couple cards on this ban list. Yeah, I'm not kidding. We're almost at the end of the cards already. First up, Amazoness Onslaught is being limited to 3 now. So this is actually being released upwards. You can now run 3 copies of this card in your deck if you want. Amazoness Onslaught being the trap card that kind of enabled Amazons to be very strong, special summoning and gaining attack and, you know, banishing, all kinds of very fun, nasty effects. I guess it was limited because it was too powerful. I kind of got out of the game when Amazons took over for a while. But yeah, it's now being bumped up back to 3, which I'm sure for those of you that enjoy Amazon is probably pretty exciting. It gives them a boost in playability, I would say, but I don't necessarily think it's going to break the meta. So you may see some Amazons in rogue status. You may see them popping up here and there in tournaments, but other than that, it's probably not going to bring back the deck in a huge way. And finally, this was kind of shocking to me as well. Rose Lover is now no longer on the Forbidden Limited list. Here I thought the only guarantees in life were death, taxes, and Rose Lover still being restricted, but now here we are, I guess. So, yeah, for you plant fans out there, I'm sure this is exciting. I'm interested to see if it becomes playable or not. I don't know. I mean, we're getting plant support. We're getting a plant archetype next, so maybe Rose Lover will have some plays with it. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, very, very famously limited card for a long time, now becoming unlimited. Hooray. So, that's it. That's all the cards that are being limited on this list. There are only 5 cards being added to the list. That's because most of Konami's hits this time around are coming in the form of skill rebalancing. So there are a ton of skills on this list, and they're not actually getting banned at the same time. They're actually going to be banned about a couple weeks later. So apparently date of skill text change is going to happen on March 25th, 2021, but the rebalancing will be applied to the game in update 5.5.0. So yeah, there are several skills on this list. You got Transcendent Crystals, Iron Call, Cubic Seeds, Master of Destiny, What Grows in the Graveyard, See You Later, Balance, Restart, Spell Specialist, Trap Layer, My Monster Cards, Heavy Starter. I'm not a fan of banning skills. Oh, not banning skills, but I'm not a fan of balancing skills like this. I don't like hitting skills. I think that it hurts too much all at once. It's a lot more impactful than hitting a card because you know the deck that that card is going to be in, and you know the deck that's going to be damaged as a result of that card being hit. Obviously, staples are a little different, but skills have a wider range for the most part. There are some deck-specific skills. But there are some skills in here that are very generic and very important for some rogue and lower tier decks that are being hit, and I don't like it, but I will try to refrain from ranting too much, and we'll go into this. So, first of all, it's actually a buff. Transcendent Crystals can be used from turn 3 and onward by sending 1 to 3 cards in your hand to the graveyard, choose a name. Being buffed, we're getting to see some Crystal Beast support, finally, I guess. We're basically trying to make Crystal Beast a little stronger and trying to enable faster plays for them. Because now, what they have changed in this skill is if you begin the duel with a deck that have 7 or more Crystal Beast monsters, you can use this skill regardless of the current turn. So you can Transcendent Crystals on turn 1, if you want to. So if you want to do, I don't know, rare value plays on turn 1, you can absolutely do it. I don't think this is necessarily going to make Crystal Beast the most broken deck in the format, but it at least gives them some more speed and tries to keep them on pace with what we have now and the speed we're dealing with now. Next up is Iron Call. Nothing too crazy. It can only be used after you've activated Iron Call, return 1 machine monster from your hand to your deck, then return 1 Iron Call from your graveyard to your hand, only once per duel. I haven't even seen this skill used before. I didn't even know it existed, to be quite frank, so sure, yeah, okay, that's fine. Let's see. After that, this was an exciting one. Cubic Seeds skill is getting buffed. This is the one that adds V-Jom to your deck. The new text now is this skill can only be used if you begin the duel with a deck or extra deck that contains no monsters other than cubic monsters, which is normal. But in addition, the number of spell and trap cards that are not cubic cards must be 6 or lower. So it's worded very weirdly, but it means you can have up to 6 spell and trap cards that are not cubic cards. So now cubics have access to staples. I don't think this is going to make them meta either, but it is very exciting to see that you are not forced to use all of the cubic spells and traps, and you can actually put some real removal in there, some real helpful cards. I'm interested to see what kind of cubic builds come out of this. If cubics may become a little more cog-worthy, I'm not sure. But something I noticed is that they still specify the extra deck has to have no cubic monsters. So maybe this is a sign that we're going to be seeing cubic extra deck soon. I know it exists, but we don't have it in Duel Links yet, so maybe we'll see it soon. Who knows? Yeah, cubic seeds, buff. Okay, now here's where the skill massacre begins with Master of Destiny, Desperado's skill. So not only are Misjudge and Head Judging now limited to 2, but Master of Destiny now says that your first normal draw will be skipped. As in, you do not draw the first time on your turn that you would draw. So, it's not necessarily the worst thing, the skill is definitely still usable, but losing a draw right at the beginning of the duel really, really hurts in my opinion. I don't think that either of those two hits, the card hits or the skill hit, necessarily by themselves are devastating, but together, it's a little oppressive. Like, I don't think the deck is dead by any means, but I definitely think that it's going to drop in the tier list very fast. I think it's going to drop down to maybe tier 2 or even 3, I can see. It's unfortunate. As much as I have dreaded fighting Desperado decks for the longest time, I don't like to see decks die to the ban list. So it is a little unfortunate to see this happen. So, yeah. Okay, next. The next two are not too big of nerfs, but they are nerfs nonetheless. What Grows in the Graveyard and See You Later now both have a clause that you can only use this when your life points decrease by 1,500. So nothing about the skill has changed, it's just that you can't activate it right away. So I'm assuming What Grows was probably hit because of plants coming in, and See You Later was hit maybe because it's just kind of silly to be able to use this right away and continue combos almost immediately. I don't know. It's not too crazy. I don't think this is necessarily the most heinous. I think it seems kind of silly because it almost does nothing, but whatever, sure. Again, I don't like all these skill hits. Okay, now, this is where I really had some issues with this ban list, and this is where my overall dislike of the list comes into play. Balance is being hit. So, balance is keeping basically the same. Your starting hand will reflect the card balance of your deck, will not activate unless you have at least 6 of each type of card in your deck, but now there is a brand new clause added to the end of it that says you cannot special summon or activate monster effects until the end of your main phase of your first turn. So that essentially means that Noble Knights cannot Exceed Summon on turn 1. They cannot activate any of their effects on turn 1. And I know it's not only Noble Knights that get hit, but it's the first deck that comes to mind when you think of decks that use balance because it's tier 1. I do not like this hit at all. I'm not a fan of this. My notes for this hit are, really? You have to be joking, and stop. I do think that Noble Knights need to be addressed. I think they're a little too strong, in my opinion, and I'm glad that Konami apparently is aware of this, but they also seem to either not be aware or not care that they're hitting a lot of rogue decks and a lot of fun, casual decks, because a ton of decks use balance. Because for a lot of decks, it's just good. It's just good. Like, you're gonna run at least 6 of each card in a lot of things, so why not? Especially because not a lot of skills are applicable to a lot of decks, and some skills are just completely useless altogether. So why would you do this? I know that they're trying to avoid, or at least in my mind, I feel like they're trying to avoid hitting the cards in the structure deck to try to avoid the loss of structure deck scales, but you're still hitting the skill that they play with. I don't know. I don't want to get too worked up over it because at the end of the day, they're going to do what they think is best, and there's not much we can do about it. We just have to live with it. But I hate that all my homies out there that like playing casually and like playing rogue decks are getting hit because of this, and are getting hit by this. I don't like that. So in addition to that, Restart, Spell Specialist, Trap Layer, My Monster cards, and Heavy Starter have all been given the same clause. You cannot special summon or activate monster effects until the end of the main phase of your first turn. So, in a meta, in a game, a format where we have so much speed and people are Xyz summoning on turn 1 in several different decks. You have automats that are summoning Bouncer on turn 1. You have all these crazy decks going off really fast. You now have locked these skills into an automatically slower speed. You are falling on your sword before the duel even starts by playing some of these skills. So, for those of you that play rogue decks that use Spell Specialist or that use Restart, not only now are you behind because your deck is just not as powerful on paper as a tiered deck, but now you are losing power because you are forced to start off basically with set 1 pass as your opening play. You cannot make opening plays with these skills, essentially. And I know not every deck needs to use a bunch of monster effects and special summon on turn 1, but that is a lot of the game, and that is a lot of where Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes going forward from here. It's special summoning all around. It's monster effects all around. This seems way too oppressive to me. I don't understand why we're giving the really, really huge beat stick to all these decks that aren't tiered, and the ones that are tiered are getting hit either marginally or in very weird roundabout ways. So, I don't know. It seems very strange to me. I can only imagine this is a sign that the cards we're going to get going forward are stronger, and that the decks that are coming soon will just outpower the ones we have now and will naturally get a curve of power creep. But it bothers me. I don't like that these skills now force you to choose between big plays on turn 1 or an advantage in the duel. I kind of thought the point of this game was to use the skills. I know you can go into a duel without a skill, but I kind of thought that was part of the appeal of speed dueling and Duel Links in general. So yeah, this really hurt my opinion of this ban list. I'm not a fan of all these changes. I in my mind, I can imagine a lot of these being repealed soon. Like in the next ban list. A lot of these may be walked back. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, that's the ban list we've got. That's what's coming in March of next month. My overall thoughts, I'm not a fan. I think that the hits to Desperado and Noble Knights marginally are needed, and I think they're fine, and at least they don't seem like they totally kill the decks, but you'll notice that they have completely overlooked Onomat. There's no balancing to Onomata play, there's no hits to Gaga's sister or any of their cards, so Onomats have been completely untouched. So in my mind, they're automatically going to be a tier 1 deck because they got hit with nothing and are already insanely powerful. It just seems weird to me that they've essentially created a wider gap between the meadow of tiered decks and the huge stampede of rogue decks, because now meta decks have these very nice tailored skills to them. You have, Automata Play, Territory of the Sharks, Photons, which aren't tiered, I know, but are very darn close to it. They have Galaxy Photon. You have a lot of skills that are very specifically tailored to those decks, and they are completely cutting off rogue decks and rogue archetypes that don't get enough love to get their own skill, that have to rely on these generic skills that Konami is now smacking around a lot. You're essentially being punished for relying on a generic skill, and it makes me feel like they don't want us to do that. So my question is, what do we do then? What do we do instead? Just no skill anymore? Is that what we're supposed to do? It's hard for me to see, and I'm not a fan of this, and anybody that knows me knows that I don't really like to complain much about Duel Links, and I don't like to get mad about stuff and changes and new boxes and all that, but I'm not a fan of this personally. So I'm sorry to any of you that rely on some of these skills, that play balance on all of your other, play balance in aromas or whatever. I'm sorry that you're getting hit for almost nothing, really. It seems kind of silly to me. I don't see those skills as being particularly oppressive, so I would like to see some of the reasoning for why they're being balanced, but I don't know. I mean, okay. So they do actually have some of the reasons. They said that as the addition of recent cards has given more decks the ability to almost ensure victory with certain combinations of cards, we're giving a harder activation condition to this skill to prevent the emergence of overpowered decks. But can you tell me what decks have auto wins with Restart? Or with Heavy Starter? With Trap Layer? Who's playing Trap Layer? This is so generic, and it's not even applied. It's the same. It's written the same as balance, and they're separated in these paragraphs here, but they didn't really explain anything specifically. They didn't give any examples as to why they're being banned, and a couple of these have specifics. I don't know. They didn't say anything about Transcendent Crystals or Iron Call. Well, kind of character exclusive skills, but like, the notes that they give us are so minuscule and don't really let us into why these things are being banned and what, or not banned, but why they're being tweaked, and what exactly will this do for the game. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this ban list. I'm assuming that some of this is going to get reverted. We'll see how devastating or how completely irrelevant it is. I can't say 100% one way or another. Nobody can. So yeah, overall, I'm not happy, but it happens. That's what happens sometimes, unfortunately. So I guess the question that's probably lingering for a lot of people, and a question that I've already been asked a few times today, is, what's hot? What's going to be the next big thing right now in the game? Well, without looking ahead at the next set, which video coming soon, by the way, hopefully very soon, without looking at cards down the line, what we have right now, I think there's 3 decks that, if you're looking for what to bank on for the next format, these are the 3 that I think you can easily invest in if you don't already have the deck. Number 1 is Onomat. They lost absolutely nothing, like I said. They've been poised for tier 1 placement for a long time now, like since Onomatopoeia became a thing, and with their more recent support, it won't be shocking if they really do get up there. I would say learn this deck, learn how it plays, try to think of ways to get around it, expect to see a lot of turn 1 bouncer suppression, because it's gonna happen. Like, yeah. So Onomat is easily a very safe option right now. I would say another one is Water Xyz. Again, just like Onomat, they lost nothing, and Territory of the Sharks is an amazing skill that they have not bothered to touch, and they're getting a ton of support in the next set. And I know I said don't worry about cards coming soon, but they're a special case, because the next set is going to power up Sharks big time. So maybe tier 1, I don't know. I could definitely see them moving up in stature, though. Most people see them right now as like a weird inclusion on the tier list, but I think they're going to get a lot more powerful after this, for sure. And lastly, Thunder Dragon. Thunder Dragon already has proven itself with several amazing results in tournaments and survived with absolutely no scratches whatsoever. So I think it's definitely going to take the format by storm, because, man, Thunder Dragons are strong. They're consistent. They're powerful. They already have plenty of evidence to support that they are going to be good in competitive. So, yeah. I mean, easy choice for competitive players. Yeah, so I think that's what's coming down the pipeline, and hopefully we'll see some new strong decks coming out that'll be changing up our meta even more to keep it fresh, as that's kind of what the ban list is for, not only to keep things balanced, but to, you know, try to keep things fresh in the format. So those are my hopes, and those are my thoughts, at least, on this ban list. But as I said, this is kind of a dialogue, so feel free to sound off. Shoot me a comment. Let me know what you think about this thing, because I'm not the end-all be-all of knowledge about this game. I'm just saying what I think, and I would love to hear what other people think and what other people's ideas of what the game is going to look like going forward. If you don't want to leave a comment, you can actually talk directly to me over at my Twitch channel. I'm live 4 days a week with open duel rooms, and I'm very active with my chat, so I'd love to hear your thoughts there too, and we can have an active discussion back and forth. And as always, be sure to subscribe if you want to know when the next video is ready for you. We got something coming up about the new set, a little preview for you. And as always, I'll be uploading regular content featuring things from my streams and from other ideas that I have. So, yeah, sorry about all the monkey videography, but I needed to get this thing out a little quicker just so everybody knew what was happening. So, thanks for sticking with me. I know it was a long one, but I appreciate all of your support. As always, you are the reason I do this. So, thank you guys very much. I'm Diatonic, signing off.